Happy Sunday evening, everybody. I hope you're doing great. This is an impromptu video. I hope that I'll be able to post it properly because I had some troubles this week with YouTube. I was trying to upload a really short video that I took on my phone, and it wasn't working. And the short video, which I'll show you, I'll do my best to show you via the iPad, is of Ellie the squirrel checking in. She is back in the neighborhood. She moved back into the tree next to my neighbor Chuck's house. She had been living down the block near the convenience store. And if you saw the earlier video that I took where she was running her babies down the street, she must have wanted to raise them there for some reason as opposed to in the tree. But now she's back in the tree, and I guess 2 of the 4 are with her, so we don't know if the others left the nest or what's going on. But she has been back, and she's been up my tree, and she's been over at my neighbor Dave's too, and that's where this video is from. This is Ellie enjoying a cob of cooked corn.
Dave gave you corn.
Yeah, my neighbor Dave is mentioned.
Happy town.
So there's a little stump where he used to have a big tree in front of his house that eventually fell, actually.
Can I have some?
So she's loving the corn, and that was one of the first times I saw her about a week ago. So that was a pleasure, and I had to capture it so I could show my family and show you guys.
Okay. Maybe next time.
So like I said, I don't know why YouTube wouldn't let me upload that short video, but I kept getting error messages. So there's that. Then let's see. Well, it's been a super busy weekend. I had 2 gigs yesterday. I had one in the afternoon at a private party, and then I had one in the evening at a bar on Hurdle Avenue in Buffalo. And boy, it went great. Both of them went great, and it feels so good to sing right now. Like, if you're a creative person, or if you've ever played a musical instrument, or if you sing, you know how joyful it is, and like how much that those creative outlets can lift your spirit. And in the middle of the summer, I was having really bad vocal problems. The pollen this summer, I read that nationally it's really gotten worse, probably because of climate change, and that there's about like 20% more pollen in the air than even a few years ago. And this summer was so intense. It was so thick in my vocal cords, my vocal tract, that I lost almost all of my middle and high range, and I was really afraid that I wasn't going to be able to figure out how to get through it or get my voice back. And it was depressing because I get so much pleasure out of it, even when I'm not performing, just to be able to work on music at home, to sing, to be on the computer working on songs, and to have that. It felt like it had been taken from me, and it just was a terrible feeling. And I just thought, oh my God, if I can just get my voice back enough to sing, then I'll be so grateful. And so now I am. And it's still, the ragweed here is still pretty intense, but I've got a new regimen now. I had been doing a nasal flush with what they call, it's not a neti pot, it's a sinus rinse. It's like a rubber bottle with a rubber stick in it and plastic top that you screw on, and you use filtered water or bottled water to flush out your nasal cavity. But the big trick for me, and if you have allergies, maybe you want to try this, is that you can buy Himalayan salt, and specifically meant for sinus usage. And I've been using 2 scoops of the salt for like about a month, and man, what a difference. So my regimen now is the salt flush every day, a teaspoon of honey every day, and my neighbor Chuck has beehives in the box hives in his backyard, and he has been collecting his honey now at the end of the season. So he gave me a jar, and then I bought a couple more. So I've been eating literally local honey from next door. And funny enough, sometimes his bees get lost and they end up in my house. I found some in the kitchen, and whenever I'm able to, I capture them and I left them out the window because I know they're just going next door anyway. So the honey, and my mom also picked up like one of those portable room air filters, and I've been using it in my bedroom at night and closing the doors and usually running the AC. That's the only room I have AC in. So those 3 things, and my voice completely cleaned up. I couldn't believe it. I can hit everything right now. I can hit basically I can sing every note on a guitar from the lowest note on the low E string all the way up to the high E on the 12th fret of the high E string. I can actually sing every single note on that guitar. So it's about 3 octaves. And again, it just feels so good. And the gig I played last night was at a smaller bar, and it was a younger crowd. And so it ended up being more of a covers gig. I played more of songs by other people. And that's not my favorite thing to do, because I have so many of my own songs, and always it's been my dream to have success with my own material. And I'll save the promotional pitch for another day, but I have had some songs that have been used as background music in a few TV shows. Nothing major like that has brought me wide notoriety, but it has brought me some extra cash. And you can actually read about that on my website if you want. I'm not going to go into that whole thing right now, but of course, so it was always my dream to be somewhat successful as a singer-songwriter, but kind of on my own terms, like kind of in my own style, in my own lane. But last night they were calling out requests for all different kinds of things, and some of the stuff I knew, so I did play some songs that I knew that they were asking for by other people. Actually nobody asked for the Bob Marley, but I sang Jammin' by Bob Marley, and I sang a John Mayer song called Still Feel Like Your Man. And I sang a couple of early Maroon 5 songs. I actually think that some of their early material is really poppy, catchy, and I like really good pop music. I don't feel like I hear a lot of good pop music these days, but I really like a well-constructed pop song. And even down to like sort of like the kings of that, or back in the day, the Beatles, because there was a young woman there who really wanted me to play A Little Help with My Friends. And of course I know it. I mean, I'm familiar with it, but I didn't know it. So I said, okay, I'm going to see if I can find a chart on my phone, and I will, if I can, then I'll perform it. But I'm gonna have to pause as I'm singing it, because I'll have to scroll up my phone to keep reading the lyrics and the chord changes. And that's exactly what I did. I set the phone on my stand. Sorry, itchy nose, allergies. See, and I started singing it, and then I would like just pause for a split second to scroll up the lyric and the chords, and they were all over it, and they were loving it. And she bought some of my CDs, and just she was with, I think, her boyfriend, and they were both just so complimentary and so into it. And I don't know if audiences always realize, even a small audience, even a bar audience, if they realize how much the positive feedback affects performers. Like, really, ideally, it's an exchange. I don't necessarily mean like that you talk the whole show. There was a lot of talking in between songs and stuff, because I'm a chatty Cathy, chatty Robbie, but it's more about the reciprocation, because I was really singing. I was giving him my best show, because I always try, but since my voice is so much better now, there's probably a little bit of extra joy in the mix that people are hearing, and people are picking up on it, and been very complimentary the last couple gigs I've done. And I feel so good just physically singing that it's obviously coming through. And so honestly, I didn't care how many of my own songs I sang, because just the physical act of singing was so pleasurable and joyful, and the sharing of that, and then seeing a lot of the people in the room enjoying it. It's like, you're bringing up the room, you're bringing good energy to a room of people, and if you can help make a festive atmosphere, then as a performer, that's a really satisfying feeling. So it's always a fine line to walk between wanting to play songs that have like a lot of personal meaning to yourself, to me, but also really being aware of where the audience is and what the audience would like, and trying to strike a balance between those so that I'm enjoying it and then they're enjoying it too. So I did play some of my material, and they were even asking about some of the songs that were in the TV show, so I played some of those, and those went over pretty well. So that was part of the fun. So it's just a great weekend. And again, I'm so grateful my voice has come back. I'm a little gassed today from last night because it turned out to be kind of a late night, and I just woke up from a nap, so I was a little foggy. So if I'm repeating myself at all, that's why. Maybe I already said that. Maybe I already explained that I woke up from the nap and I'm repeating myself, so I'm already repeating that part. Well, anyway, you know how I am, loopy. I mean, like loop, like in loops. So I hope everybody got to see Kim Carey's latest video from Intuitive View. I think it's amazing. You have to see it, where the latest experience she had with the orbs in her bedroom, or in the bedroom that she uses to do the videos. It was amazing. And I am 100% convinced that those light orbs flying around her room are spirits, spirit guides, angels, angelic forms, or supportive spiritual beings of light. And I really believe now what keeps coming through, like from the psychics and from my own experiences and my brother's experiences and our family in general, that everyone, that we have souls, of course, but that our soul, the core of our soul is energy. And so it's light. It's light. It's I guess a piece. Each of us is a piece of God, or from God. And so that when we leave these vessels, what will remain will be that sort of ball of light that we really are, that makes us up inside. So, and if you've watched a lot of psychic videos online, then you know that some of the maybe more evolved spiritual beings, the sort of higher vibrational beings, are able to even sort of manifest more of a visual form for people to see if they want to communicate. Like they can manipulate energy to create an appearance, and it might even be a relatively convincing human approximation, even if it looks like it's somewhat transparent because it's light. And so I showed Kim's video to my mom and my brother this afternoon, because we got together to watch the Buffalo Bills football game. We were having a good old time, making a lot of dumb jokes, as we often do. And my mom reminded me, they love the video, by the way, Kim's video. And my mom reminded me that she has a motion camera, she and her husband, in the backyard of their home in the suburbs of Buffalo. And she's been seeing what seems to be an orb that is always in the same place on the camera when she checks the footage later. And the reason she knows that it's there is because the camera, I don't know anything about how these cameras work, but apparently it's a motion sensitive camera, so it only goes on when there's motion. So occasionally she'll catch a deer or another critter in the backyard, because they have a little pond that they made back there. So there's a lot of nature that comes to my mom's backyard in the summer, including orioles, which are really beautiful, because I got to see them over there this summer, and all kinds of critters. But she said this what seems to be a light orb, like the ones in Kim's video, keeps showing up on the camera, and it's always in the same place in the yard. So here's a picture. First, I'm going to show you, look at the wide view. So this is on my camera. So over here is the orb, and this is like the light trail behind it. So here's a tree, of course, a fence, and then another tree behind it. Now, next, I'm going to show you a little close-up view that I did. Okay. What I thought was really interesting is this is not the moon. I mean, it kind of looks like a full moon, but what we noticed today when we were looking at it is that the trail behind it, like it is like a trail. So like here's the main orb, and then it's like it's like a light trail behind it, which suggests that it's in motion. So like with Kim's video, you see the orbs. Of course, hers has tons of orbs, and it's much more convincing than this photograph is. But they have the trails behind them, or sometimes it appears like there are more than one light orbs together. So this smaller one, it could be part of the trail of the main one, or it could be yet another orbit itself. But what is interesting again about that is if you look at this second lighter orb, you can see that the shape of the leaves from the tree behind it appear through it, but yet at the same time the orb has enough brightness that it blocks some of the detail on the leaves. Do you see what I mean here? This leaf shape. So what you get is you realize that the orb is semi-transparent, and which speaks to it as being light, in my opinion. So I thought that was kind of a neat echo of Kim's video. Like I said, this is not as impressive as a room full of orbs flying around, but we've had so many experiences as a family that I would consider magical anyway, that it's all in the same box. It's just reinforcement of what we already believe. And that can be hard to feel like every single day of your life, especially when you're busy. My day job has been super busy for the last 3 or 4 weeks, and it consumes so much of my brain energy sometimes that like the end of the day I'm just tapped, and there's not a lot of energy left for writing or working on music, other than just sort of practicing a little bit and just trying to maintain form. But to see videos like that, like Kim's, sort of gives you that buoyancy again, and it's exciting, and it reminds me that we do get to see glimpses of what's kind of behind the so-called veil, the so-called curtain, and that really we do live in magic. The foundation of existence is magic, and there's a lot of reasons I say that, but the fact that we're here at all is kind of impossible. Like, there's no reason for us to be here, and yet there's no reason for us not to be here. Like, life is so improbable, but yet the absence of life, like if there was nothing, if there was no universe, there was nothing at all, that would be just as improbable. So the fact that we are here, that whatever this physical reality is that we're experiencing, we are aware that we are in it. We live in kind of a magical realm. Oh, and this reminds me of the video I watched by Cindy, and I think she goes by Spiritual Growth Tarot. And Cindy is so I think she's super funny. She can be, some people think that she's a little like random, by which I mean she'll kind of talk tangentially, is that a word? Or in circles a little bit, but I do the same thing, so maybe that's why I like her. But anyway, she did a video recently about, it was a reading for Pisces, because she does all of the astrological signs. I don't know if it's every week or every month, but she, in the Pisces reading, what she said, everything that she said for 2 Pisces readings in a row really resonated with me, like totally hit me dead on where I was at. And I just thought, wow, again, it's just, it seems strange, and it seems impossible that someone could know what you're feeling based on your sign and where the planets are, but yet there's a reality to it. And among the things that she said that I found really fascinating is she said that, okay, February, Pisces, I'm a February Pisces. We're the 12th house of the zodiacs, and so we're like the last sign, and therefore it's like our awareness is partly earthbound but partly spacebound, or rather the other side of the veil. Like we're semi-cosmic, we're a little bit off the planet, and that certainly feels true in the dreams I have and just my general creativity and the things I imagine and think about. I think kind of cosmically a lot often. And she said that, I loved how she put it. She said something like, Pisces, you try, or you want, or you do manifest your sort of magical dreams into reality. And if it were up to you, Pisces, we would be living in like a magical land like Narnia, where everything is just like beautiful and obviously supernatural and magical. And when she said that, I was like, that's absolutely 100% correct. And I think that's why I get excited when I see evidence of magic popping through our so-called everyday reality. And I would define the thing with the orbs at Kim's house as evidence of magic, and perhaps the what we think is the orbs visiting my mom's place, and then of course all the other things that have happened, some of which I detailed in the first book, and a lot of which I'm working on for the second book. And yeah, I would love every day to be more magical. If we could have experiences with orbs floating around us like on a daily basis, and more people started to have experiences like what happened at Kim's house, wouldn't we change? Wouldn't we start to like more as a collective start to admit that we do live in magic. Our existence is magical, and maybe we would I don't know, live more joyfully and live more spiritually if more people believe that. I know a lot of people believe that, but if it got wider. So I don't know, maybe that's where the shift in consciousness that people talk about, that the psychics talk about, maybe that's where it heads, like where more people have sort of like these powerful spiritual uplifting experiences. I really hope so. For myself, for anybody watching, for humanity as a whole, just to get that vibe up, because that's how I feel when I perform too. Like when I tap, when I'm seeing really well and I'm in flow, they call it the flow state, and it applies to athletics too. Like athletes talk about being in the flow, where you're no longer really thinking about what you're doing, you're just doing it because you've done all the reps, you've done all the practice, you are prepared to do what you came to do. And then when your mind is out of the way and you're just flowing with what's happening, it's like you're aligning with the flow of the universe, even if you're playing a bar gig. And that's how it felt, and that's how it has felt many times in my life when I have performed. I have performed. I've done more than 1,000 gigs in the last 30 years, for sure. I don't have an exact count, but I know it's more than 1,000. And it just, the longer I do it, the more fun it is, because my awareness just keeps growing and my skills kind of haven't quite peaked out yet. And they may at some point, given my age, but I hope not. And I certainly hope to sing for a very long time, whether I'm performing out or just at home. But it's just such a joy. And music itself is vibrational. So much like spirit, when we hear music that we love, we are elevated by it. And I don't see now. I already don't know. Did I already tell the story about the Beatles song? All right, I think I did. Ah, God, that's how foggy I am today. But if not, I'll say it again one more time. A girl at the show last night asked for Beatles, Little Help with My Friends, and I didn't really know it, but I looked it up on my phone and I sang it while I was scrolling it on my phone, and they just loved that. I think I already talked about that. Wow, man, I gotta get it together. Okay, so that leads me to another little side thing I wanted to talk about. I've been thinking about this for a while, and I don't want this video to go on too much longer, but I've been thinking about why music. There's so much to say about why music is such a big part of life, but to me, it's a critical part. And I know for Kim Carey too, because she was a professional musician for maybe, I don't know, 6 or 7 years, I think, where she was singing with a band, and that was what she did for her job, which is awesome. And it's been a huge part of my life. And when I hear songs that like strike my imagination, that just strike a nerve, there's nothing, it's indescribable. The lift is so strong, so powerful. I could just feel it through my whole body. And I'm sure most of you have had that experience too. But I grabbed a couple CDs that I wanted to show you because it's funny because I'm really talking about the energetic quality of music in the uplifting sense. But the CDs that I wanted to mention are actually more of nighttime CDs. And the reason I bring it up is because I have found since COVID began that there are two bands, but really primarily one band among my old records that has been to me my nighttime music almost every night, where I made a playlist on my phone, and when I get into bed, usually Gabe, my cat, will join me, and I put this playlist on, and it helps me sleep. There's something about the vibrational quality of this particular music, and it's so mellow and so relaxing that it puts me out. So maybe you want to explore it too. I don't know. The first of two bands that I'll mention is called Talk Talk. Okay. So this record is called Talk Talk, Spirit of Eden. And Talk Talk, for those of you who know pop music at all, in the mid 80s, Talk Talk had two songs that were pop hits. They're a British band in the United States. The bigger of the two was called It's My Life, and there was a cover version of it done by No Doubt, maybe in the 90s. And then they had another song, a slightly lesser known song that is on this record. The record is called The Color of Spring. Talk Talk, The Color of Spring. Plus the artwork is just gorgeous. Talk Talk, The Color of Spring. And the song that came off this record is called Life's What You Make It. And what I love about this band is they started as an electronic band in the 80s, and they gradually got more interested in jazz and kind of ambient atmospheric music. And so by the time they get to this record, they're getting more experimental, and they're getting away from electronics and into more somewhat orchestrated type pop music with organs and strings and various horns and woodwinds. And then Spirit of Eden, this record, which also has gorgeous artwork. I don't know if you could see it. It's like a tree with all this nature in it against an ocean. This record is like a space ride. It is not for everyone, admittedly, but there are certain songs on it that are just so beautiful to my ear and so relaxing and contemplative that I just adore this record. And I think this came out in 89 or 91, and my love of it has only grown in time. And it's like you almost have to hear a certain amount of music before you can graduate to what's going on with this record, which is a combination of jazz and orchestral music and some pop sensibility. But one of my favorite songs on here is the last song, which is called Wealth. There are only 6 songs, and they're long songs. They're like 7-8 minute songs each, and Wealth is just, to me, it's almost religious. Possibly because they used an organ in the recording of it, but I love the lyric too. Let me see, I think the lyric is inside. It's in cursive. I'll tell you some of the lyrics. Actually, no, I'll look the lyrics up on my phone because the cursive is hard to read. Pardon me, I'm sorry that this isn't ready. 1 second. And then maybe I'll play you a little snippet from my phone. Talk. Wealth. The song is called Wealth. So the lyric is, create upon my flesh, create approach upon my breath, which is kind of abstract. Bring me salvation if I fear. Take my freedom. Create upon my breath, create reflection on my flesh. So it's like sort of a physical connection. The wealth of love, bear me a witness to the years. Take my freedom for giving me a sacred love. Create upon my flesh, create a home within my head. Take my freedom for giving me a sacred love. And when he sings that lyric, take my freedom for giving me a sacred love, I don't know, it just still gives me shivers. It gives me shivers even thinking about it. Let me see. I'm going to play a clip. It's going to be on the phone, so it's not going to be exactly the best audio, but you can definitely find, you could actually look this song up on YouTube if you wanted. And certainly I'm create upon my flesh. Create approach upon my breath. Bring me salvation if I fear. Take my freedom.
Take my freedom.
Take my freedom for sacred love. And that organ in there, oh my God, it just makes me cry. So, this is a song that almost always helps put me to sleep. Bear me a witness to the years. Take my freedom.
Take my freedom. Let my freedom. Let my
So,
freedom.
I'm going to keep letting that play here in the background because I don't feel like I should shut it off. Hopefully, I'm still the main thing you hear. So if you're looking for a relaxing nighttime listen, that song is on Talk Spirit of Eden. And then the band made one more record, very experimental, called Laughing Stock. And after that, then they decided to stop. And this record is similarly experimental and has a lot of very mellow pieces on it that you might find to be nice for sleeping. And then the lead singer of this band, his name is Mark Hollis. Hollis. He made a solo record after the last Talk record that's just self-titled. And it came out in the mid 90s or late 90s. And then that was it. He decided he was done making music. And so the Mark Hollis record and the Talk Talk records that I just showed are in a playlist together that I use at the end of the evening. Mark Hollis actually died last year. He was, I think, only 64. There were no real details about his passing. He was, you can look up interviews with him, and he was definitely a musical purist, and I would say, maybe without meaning any disrespect towards him, he may have been sort of on the spectrum, which is not unusual, because I think that a lot of very, very creative people kind of have that kind of focus, that narrow, tight focus on one thing, or a kind of perfection in one area of endeavor. And for him, for a time, it was music. And then he actually did have he got married at some point and had a family. And I'm sorry for their loss, but the music lives on, and the music is just beautiful. So this is really for another day, maybe, but the second band that I have a mix of is the Dream Academy. This was an 80s band, also very somewhat orchestral pop. So this is their first record, called The Dream Academy, and the song you might remember is Life in a Northern Town, if you're old enough to remember that from the mid-80s. Then their second record was called Remembrance Days, and Lindsey Buckingham from Fleetwood Mac was involved with producing this record, and you can hear some of that influence in some of the tracks in a very lovely way, like a pop sheen on this orchestral pop they were making. And then their last record was called A Different Kind of Weather, and this was probably the least successful, musically speaking, artistically speaking, but there's still some gems on it that really move me. And these three records work really well as a playlist too. So I'm going to leave you with the very end of Talk Talk Wealth. That's how we're going to go out, this long fade.